Welcome to the introductory video of Performing Tasks in Scala, a programmer's course for beginners. You will learn to do stuff in the coolest programming language out there. I will probably say in every video that I think Scala is the coolest of the coolest. I work in Scala. I've worked in Scala for several years and I'm just very enthusiastic about it. But let's start at the beginning. What is programming? An easy definition I would give is that programming is simply instructing your computer to do what you want. Sounds easy, right? Well, you speak English and your computer speaks machine code, so there is a tiny little issue there. To solve that, you will write in a programming language, and then the programming language is translated into machine code. There are more details here, but let's just keep it at this. You will write in a programming language. So it's just like learning French? Well, yes, you have to learn a new language. But also no, because if you learn French, you are still talking to another human being. And if you learn programming, you're actually talking to a computer. And that's very different. That brings me to what's programming really about. Programming is really about how to create detailed instructions. This is the practical side. You're talking to a computer. The computer will not make any assumptions about what's going on. If you tell a computer, do A, the computer is going to do A. Even though you might think, well, only do A if this and this and this is the situation. If you're talking to a human being, they can, make assumptions, see the context. The computer doesn't do that. So you have to learn how to create very detailed instructions. And the other thing is that you have to learn how to split up tasks into smaller tasks. Because if you're working on a really big task, you and the computer probably will get confused if you don't split it up in smaller tasks. And if you look at your work a year or 2 years later, you will be like, what? So I think those two things are very important on the practical side. And note that I'm not talking about programming language. The programming language, the actual language itself, is secondary. So even though I am a fan of Scala, there are so many more languages out there. And if they do the job, they do the job. The most important thing about programming is not the programming language itself. I think that's a very important message. And the other very, very important point is that you should be allowing yourself to fail. That is really pivotal in programming. And to learn from that. We are conditioned to try to do everything perfect, right? But please let that go. Allow yourself to fail. Allow yourself to make mistakes and to learn from it. Because in programming, the most important stuff will happen when you try and try and try and learn and learn and learn from all those tries, whether they succeeded or not. That is really what's programming about from my point of view. Now, a myth would be, it's difficult. Or is it a myth? Well, it might be frustrating at times, but at its core, it's just giving a computer instructions. I think that can be something important to think back on when you think like, oh no, it's so difficult. Well, yeah, but at its core, it is really just telling the computer, do A, do B, do C. Another thing would be that you have to be a genius. No, but you have to be willing to learn and make mistakes, as I said before. Why would you want to learn programming? Well, you will feel like a wizard and a magician. Isn't that reason enough? That's so cool. If that is not reason enough, well, you also learn to make stuff, actual stuff. Maybe you cannot hold it and feel it in your hands, but you will actually be making practical things. It's not just theory. And we all know that it is the present. We're already surrounded by it, by code, by digital things. And it's not going to go anywhere. So this is really the present and the future. So you're just going to learn more about the world you live in. And it helps you reason about performing tasks. That will not only serve you in a programming language, that serves you in anything. It helps you reason. Maybe there are other reasons that you already know for yourself. Why did I make this course? Well, there are two main parts of that. First is my personal experience, I will tell you a little bit more about. And the other part is that I think Scala is super awesome, but most courses in Scala are not made for beginners. They are made for example, Java developers or C developers, people that already know programming. There was a bit of a gap there. When I learned programming and along my programming journey, I encountered several obstacles. For example, in the beginning, I felt that I was just receiving theory. It was too much theory and I was not really practicing, and I didn't really understand what we were doing, which is not weird because it was just all theory in my head. The other thing, what I've seen not only in the beginning but throughout my whole programming journey, is that really often difficult language is being used, jargon. To me, it just feels like not very welcoming, especially for beginners. I think it's so important that we don't get lost in difficult language when it's not necessary. And the programming world is for everybody, I think. I think we can be much more inclusive. And finally, difficult installations. Such a pain point for me. If I learn a new language and in the beginning I have to do so many things that for me are difficult, I'm like, and sometimes I would just stop. I would just give up. So I just made my own course because this is the course that I would have wanted. Now, practically, you will be performing tasks in Scala from day one. I'm going to tell you about theory, but we're going to be doing practical stuff all the time. You are going to be doing practical stuff all the time. First, I will tell you in each video what the task at hand is that you're going to be performing afterwards. And then I will give you the concepts in Scala that you're going to need to complete the task. And you can write along, and I will suggest that to you in each video because I think it's so important. We will start programming in a playground, and that is to avoid difficult installations at the beginning. So playground is basically an environment online where you can just code around. You don't have to install anything. It's all online. And then at some point we will move to the local version. So that means that you will have to install certain things. But we're just gonna, have a quick start in the playground. I already said before, it's all about doing. It's not about the theory. It's about actually programming, writing the stuff yourself. Listening to me might be fun, but you need to make practice rounds yourself. So have fun and don't hit your computer.